watching Bengals Breakdown by Chat Sports, and I'm your host, Stone Shields. Coming up on today's show, ESPN has released their yearly rankings for the quarterback position after talking with scouts, coaches, and executives around the league. We're going to break down those rankings and figure out where exactly Joe Burrow sits on that list and why I have a bit of an issue with where Joe Burrow resides on that list. Also, Jamar Chase recently went on a podcast where he talked about the toughest DB that he has had to go against so far in his career. I agree with him, but I think some of you guys out there might be a little bit taken aback by his answers. So that's what's coming up here on today's show. By the way, I am doing a little solo producing here on today's video, so if you see me look down, whatever the case may be, just trying to do multiple things here at once as we progress through today's show. But before we get into that, if you guys are excited for training camp, show your excitement by liking today's video for me. Right now, the like numbers here at the channel have been down a little bit. We're trying to get those numbers back up, going for over 300 likes on today's show. So help me out. If you're excited for training camp and you just appreciate what we're doing here at Bengals Breakdown, hit that thumbs up icon for me right now. It is greatly appreciated. All right, so Joe Burrow has dropped down to number 3 in these rankings from ESPN. Do want to emphasize it isn't just ESPN and their writers coming up with these rankings. No, they're talking to NFL executives, scouts, and coaches around the league, and that is how they get these rankings. They're going to do them for all the positions, and they're going to talk to executives, coaches, and scouts for all the positions. They've been doing this for several years now, and I think it's kind of a fun exercise that they do. It really kind of allows you to get in the heads of some of the people that actually know what they're talking about and are around the game and see what they think. And again, they've done this for several years, and it's also good, material to talk about here in July as we're kind of on the edge of our seats a little bit waiting for training camp to commence. But Joe Burrow was second last year, and then he dropped to number 3, and that's kind of what has me personally shaking my head a little bit considering the season that he had last year and all that he was able to accomplish on the football field. We'll continue to talk about this, but let's break down these 10 that ESPN has here on these rankings. Number 1 is Patrick Mahomes. We'll have more on that in a bit. I get why Patrick Mahomes is 1, but the way that I would do these rankings is it shouldn't just be, wow, this guy's unbelievable. He's got MVPs. He's got 3 Super Bowls. Let's just pencil him in at 1 every time. It should be based on the season that previously just took place in 2024. And if you think Patrick Mahomes had the best season last year, you're frankly out of your mind. Josh Allen. I love me some Josh Allen. Everybody does. He's a great guy. He's an unbelievable football player. Obviously, I think there will be more of a rivalry between Cincinnati and Buffalo as time goes on because you will get more matchups in the postseason between Joe Burrow and Josh Allen. That really isn't the case right now. Obviously, the fan base kind of has come together based on how Cincinnati did a great job taking care of DeMar Hamlin and whatnot, and it really hasn't been competitive. Cincinnati and Joe Burrow have owned the Buffalo Bills, but they got the reigning MVP, Josh Allen, penciled in at number 2. Lamar Jackson, I think that's perfect placement for him there at that 4 spot. Jayden Daniels, look, 5's a little rich for me. I'll be the first to admit I was wrong on Jayden Daniels, at least for his first year. I didn't think he was going to stink, but I didn't think he would go on to win multiple playoff games, have an opportunity to advance to the Super Bowl and do the incredible things that he was able to do his rookie campaign. Stafford's a guy that I probably would think about moving up a hair on that list, maybe perhaps right behind Lamar Jackson where Jayden Daniels is penciled in. Is he getting up there in age? Absolutely, but when he is healthy, he can flat out sling it better than anybody that I have ever seen play this game. Herbert's a guy, he battled through a lot of injuries. I think as long as him and Harbaugh continue to build that connection, he will get better and better and better. Jared Goff obviously had an incredible year. Rough playoff game for Jared Goff, but at the same time, Jayden Daniels just kind of went out there and outdueled him. Jalen Hurts, the guy continues to get disrespected. Not sure why he's that low on this list there at number 9. And I like Baker Mayfield there at number 10 as well. He had an unbelievable year in Tampa. He's a really good quarterback in this league, and it's been awesome to see him land on his feet since all that went down in Cleveland. Then he was in Carolina for a little bit, and then, of course, the Rams for whatever that was, a couple of weeks. And then ultimately has landed as the guy for Tampa Bay and really has done a nice job. More on the Joe Burrow side here in a second, but first pin comment time here on today's show. What is your one-word reaction to Joe Burrow being number 3 in these rankings from scouts, executives, and coaches? Let me know. I want to know what you guys think. Get those one-word reactions for me in the comment section of today's show. Well, here's my one word, incorrect. I absolutely disagree with that completely. We'll get into the stats between Joe Burrow and Josh Allen. As you guys know, I'm not a big stat guy. I'm more of an eye test guy. But I think might as well take a look at the stats between the guy that won MVP and the guy that should have won MVP, in my opinion, and Joe Burrow. But to have him at 3, especially after having him at 2 last year, that really doesn't make any sense to me, not taking away what Josh Allen did on the football field. It was amazing what he did for Buffalo. There's a reason he went on to win the MVP award, and, of course, was a little bit short against Kansas City and ultimately wasn't able to get over the hump and get to the Super Bowl. But Allen's unbelievable. Nobody's denying that. I just think Joe Burrow is more consistent. He's more accurate with the football. He's won bigger games throughout his career. And I think he was just simply better last year, despite the fact his team went 9-8. Let's take a look at what one of these executives had to say in regards to Joe Burrow and his performance and where he ultimately lands here on this list, saying, I get the guy has 2 elite wideouts, but their run game was average. And the offensive line was not very good either. On top of all that, their defense was porous, and he kept them in every single game for the most part. I thought it may have been his best year yet, but it didn't get the same pub because of the other high-profile teams. And basically all that executive did was sing the praises of Joe Burrow, which in my mind is like, well, why don't you have him a little bit higher in the list? And I do want to circle back here to Patrick Mahomes. I understand his greatness, right? I remember look, I'm not going to say when the Chiefs drafted him, I knew it was a great pick. But when I saw him play for the first time as a member of the Kansas City Chiefs Andy Reid offense, I said, oh, boy, he's going to win Super Bowls. And I think probably a lot of people thought the same thing. Sometimes he a little bit overhyped. I don't know. I mean, he really is unbelievable. But this was his worst year of his career, in my opinion, this past year. And obviously he still went to a Super Bowl, so that tells you the kind of player that he is. But as I mentioned near the top of the show, I don't think he should just be penciled in as the number 1 guy every year if he is coming off a bad season. Again, his team went to the Super Bowl, so it's hard to really say it was a bad season. But Mahomes' standards, he turned the ball over way too much. He wasn't as great, and he certainly relied on his defense. So I still would have Patrick Mahomes, though, over Josh Allen. So if I were doing this list, maybe on a video down the road, I'll do my full breakdown of all the quarterbacks in the National Football League. I think that would be a fun exercise. But I would go Burrow, Mahomes, Allen. Well, again, love Allen. Unbelievable season there as the MVP. But at the end of the day, I just thought that, Mahomes probably still goes above Josh Allen. He was great. Has yet to win that super big game, I would say. And ultimately, of course, he still has that head-scratching play sometimes. He's cut back on it severely, but Joe Burrow doesn't really have that play where you're like, dude, what are you doing? That still happens with Josh Allen. And I do want to touch on these, because the guy on the right won the MVP award in this league, and the guy on the left did not. Let's take a look at these stats. Completion percentage, yeah, it's not close. That's in favor of Joe Burrow. Passing yards, yeah, I get Cincinnati was down. I get they were losing a lot of games, and they needed to chuck it around the football field. That's pretty impressive as well. You can see that the yards per game passing the football, that's not even close either. The touchdowns number is massive. Joe Burrow threw 43 touchdowns. I mean, my goodness. That's not even close to the 28 that Josh Allen put up. Obviously, a couple of more picks for Joe Burrow as well. But some people sit there and say I'm crazy when I say, yeah, I would take Joe Burrow over Josh Allen. And they're like, well, how do you do that? The stats don't say it. I think people are shocked to see that the stats actually sit like this between these two players. Obviously, I'm a little biased, but I truly believe Joe Burrow is the best quarterback in this league. And the rankings here from these scouts, executives, coaches, and ESPN are, in fact, incorrect. We'll continue with our second half of the show here in a second, but do want to give a shout-out to our friends over at Fanatics. Let you guys know that these Bengals T-Shirt hoodies are out. They're on sale. You can go get them. Chatsports.com/Bengals Hoodie T-Shirt / super hot out here in July in Cincinnati. They're short sleeve, good quality material, but it's thin. Got the hood as well. If you're going to go to Cincinnati Bengals training camp, you can perhaps throw one of these on. The hood can help shield you out from the sun. Best part about these, though, they're on sale. Like $20 off, I think, what they originally were marked up as. So go get them. It's a great deal. We'll put that link in the comment section and the description of today's show. Let's get to what Jamar said on this podcast he went on. I believe the sit-down is with Malik Wright. The host of that is not Malik Wright. I terribly am sorry. But I do believe that is the podcast that he went on. And he said the toughest cornerback that he has had to face in his NFL career is Denzel Ward. And I completely agree with this take from Jamar Chase. I think there might be some people out there that might say, well, no, I don't know about that. But Denzel Ward's an unbelievable player. More on Ward in a second. But let's get to the exact quote here from Jamar Chase. He said, it's easy. I mean, Denzel, it's twice a year. It's one-on-one majority of the time. He got great feet. He knows leverage. He knows splits. He's one of the best I like playing. And if you also have to keep in mind that sometimes Cleveland has kind of held Jamar Chase in check throughout his career. He's also, of course, had some big games against the Cleveland Browns, but they also, to a degree, have held him in check, and Denzel Ward has done a great job of that, and you can kind of see that respect there between Jamar and Denzel Ward. Let me know, where do you put Denzel Ward among the NFL's best cornerbacks? Because I feel like we do all these lists and these rankings, and we talk about cornerbacks, and nobody ever shows love to Denzel Ward. He's a great guy, or a great player, and he does great things on the football field for his team. So I'm curious to what you guys think. Rank him for me out of all the corners in the NFL. What do you have? Is he a top 10 guy for you? He absolutely should be. Is he top 5 guy for you? Sound off for me in the comments of today's show. I've always thought he's so underrated. Seemingly every time the Bengals play the Browns, he makes some big play, right? This is a guy that had 19 pass breakups this past year. He's all over the football field at all times. He's a really cerebral player that goes out there and constantly puts his team in a position to win, and he's been with Cleveland for his whole career, and Cleveland obviously has always been, a dumpster fire. Now, if I had to pick the best cornerback, I would lean Surtain, right? But I totally get the logic here from Jamar Chase. Now, Surtain obviously squared off with Jamar Chase, and I don't think maybe Surtain impressed the same way that I thought he was going to in that football game. The Bengals, of course, had their way scoring a lot of points against Denver in what was arguably the most exciting game of the NFL season. But Surtain's probably my one, but I definitely have Denzel Ward very, very high up there. As I mentioned, 19 pass breakups and then 11 the previous year, 15 besides that. Does he miss a game or two here and there? Yeah, but he's pretty available. Taking a look at those games played numbers, pretty incredible what Denzel Ward has been able to do. It's the fact that he plays in Cleveland. Ultimately, I think is why he doesn't get much love. But if you put a guy like Denzel Ward on the Cincinnati Bengals, that totally changes their trajectory of their football team. For example, if you put Denzel Ward on the Bengals last year, they 100% make the playoffs. He's an unbelievable player, and I did just kind of want to shed some light on that after those comments from Jamar Chase. Before we get out of here on today's show, make sure you guys give me a follow over on Twitter at StoneShields_. Most of our Bengals breakdown content will be posted over on my Twitter page. If any Bengals news happens, I'll get a retweet out there. The beat writers, they do a great job covering it, and I'll make sure that gets out to you guys. So help me out trying to build this up eventually to over 1,000 Twitter followers. So give me a follow over on Twitter at StoneShields_.